Looking back, I realized that I spent far too much time worrying about the mistakes I made in the past. The wrong decisions, the hurtful words, and the actions that can never be undone have caused me pain. I used to blame myself constantly, overthinking things I couldn't change. There were times I wished I could go back and fix everything, but in reality, it's impossible. Those mistakes will always be a part of me, whether I like it or not. When I was younger, I often thought that if I could just fix the past, my life would be different. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that the wounds in my soul can't be healed just by regretting them. Everything that has passed is gone, and there's nothing I can do to change it anymore. Those choices, both big and small, have shaped who I am today. I've learned that instead of living in the pain of the past, I need to learn to forgive myself. But even understanding this doesn't make it easy. And the most heartbreaking thing is that even though I've tried to move on, there are still nights when I can't stop thinking about my past mistakes. Those memories feel like shadows that refuse to leave, and it's hard to shake them off. I just wish I could move past them faster, so I don't have to carry this sadness with me for the rest of my life. Looking back on my life, I've come to realize that holding on to past mistakes has only caused me pain and unnecessary stress. The things I regret, the words I wish I hadn't said, and the choices I should have made differently are all things that I can't change now. It's easy to get caught up in thinking about what could have been, but the truth is there's no point in dwelling on the past. We all make mistakes, and no one is perfect. It's part of being human. Letting go of those mistakes was one of the hardest things I've ever done. There were times when it felt like the weight of those memories was too heavy to carry, but I learned that the longer I held on to them, the more they drained me. Eventually, I realized that I had to forgive myself and move on. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but the moment I decided to let go, I could feel the weight lifting off my shoulders. It wasn't about forgetting what happened, but rather accepting it for what it was. I had to stop beating myself up over things I couldn't change and start focusing on what I could do going forward. It was a painful process, but it was also freeing. Now, when those old memories creep back in, I try not to let them control me. I've learned that the past doesn't define who I am today, and while the scars might still be there, they no longer have the power to keep me stuck in a place of regret and sorrow. As I look back on my life, I've realized how important it is to let go of toxic people and negative influences. For too long, I allowed certain individuals to occupy space in my life, people who drained me emotionally and added nothing but stress and pain. It's a painful thing to admit, but there were times I held on to these relationships out of a sense of obligation or fear of losing them. But over time, I began to understand that these toxic people were not helping me grow or find happiness. Cutting them out wasn't easy, especially when they had been part of my life for so long, but it was necessary. I had to come to terms with the fact that I couldn't change them, and I certainly couldn't let them continue to affect my mental well-being. It took a lot of strength to walk away, but once I did, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The hardest part was realizing how much time I had wasted trying to make these relationships work, even when they weren't healthy. I had invested so much energy into pleasing these people and trying to fix things that were beyond repair. It wasn't until I let go that I could finally breathe again. The weight lifted off my shoulders, and I found the space to focus on the people who truly mattered, those who cared about me and respected my boundaries. Even though it hurt to let go, I know it was the best decision I ever made. I've learned that sometimes walking away from toxic relationships is the only way to protect your peace. And while it's sad to think about the time lost, I know that moving forward without those negative influences has allowed me to grow into a better version of myself. One of the hardest lessons I've learned in life is that I can't control other people's expectations. For years, I carried the weight of what others expected from me, whether it was at work, in my personal relationships, or even in my own family. I thought I had to meet those expectations, that I had to live up to their standards in order to be accepted or loved. But I've come to realize that not everyone is going to see things the way I do, and that's okay. Over time, I've learned to let go of the unrealistic goals I set based on other people's views of me. I can't expect others to act or think the way I do, just as they can't expect me to be exactly what they want. It's painful when you realize that, but the truth is, you can't change people. You can only change how you respond to them. I've also learned that trying to live up to those expectations often leads to frustration and disappointment. The more I tried to meet others' needs, the more I lost myself in the process. The expectations that others had for me weren't always fair or realistic, and trying to fulfill them only added unnecessary stress to my life. It's a painful truth to accept, but it's made my life much simpler and calmer now that I've learned to lower those expectations. Letting go of this pressure has allowed me to focus more on what makes me happy and fulfilled, instead of worrying about constantly meeting the needs of others. I've found that when I stop trying to meet everyone else's standards, I'm finally able to breathe and live a life that's true to who I am. As I've gotten older and entered retirement, I've realized the importance of simplifying my goals. When I was younger, I had grand ambitions, working hard to secure a career, buy a house, travel the world, and more. Those were the big goals that seemed so important at the time. But now, with time on my side, I've come to understand that sometimes the most meaningful goals are the simplest ones. I've learned that it's okay to set smaller, more attainable goals that bring a sense of satisfaction without the pressure of chasing after unrealistic dreams. For example, learning to play a song on the guitar might seem small, but achieving that goal brings a sense of accomplishment and joy. It's these small victories that have become more important to me now, rather than the large, often overwhelming goals I used to set for myself. There's a certain peace that comes with lowering your expectations. Instead of striving to achieve everything on a grand scale, I've focused on things I can truly enjoy and master. Whether it's something as simple as being on time for an appointment, something I used to struggle with, or spending time on a new hobby, I now find fulfillment in the smaller things that I once overlooked. It's a different mindset, but one that has brought me a lot of happiness. I no longer feel burdened by the need to achieve extraordinary feats. Instead, I find joy in the everyday moments and simpler accomplishments. Retirement has given me the chance to reflect on what truly matters, and I've found that happiness doesn't always come from chasing big dreams, but from appreciating the little things that make life special. As I've retired and settled into this slower pace of life, I've come to understand the importance of not always trying to be busy. In my earlier years, I was always on the go, working constantly, juggling responsibilities, and filling every moment with tasks. I thought that being busy meant I was productive, that it was a sign of success. But as time went on, I realized that constant busyness was draining me, both physically and mentally. Now, in retirement, I've learned that it's just as important to make time to relax and recharge. Instead of pushing myself to be on the go all the time, I've learned to enjoy simple activities like going for a walk, sitting down with a book, or even just watching a movie without feeling guilty for not being productive. The pressure to fill every minute of my day has faded, and I've found that slowing down actually helps me be more present and at peace. I've also realized that it's okay to have quiet moments and take breaks. When you're constantly moving, you don't give yourself the chance to truly rest or reflect. Now I try to schedule time for myself, doing things that help clear my mind and give my body the rest it needs. It's not about being lazy, but about finding balance, something I never had when I was younger. Retirement has given me the space to breathe and appreciate the value of relaxation. It's taught me that being constantly busy doesn't equate to fulfillment or happiness. Instead, I've learned that taking time to simply be still can bring a sense of peace and clarity that I never fully appreciated before. One of the most important lessons I've learned in my later years is that I can't please everyone, no matter how hard I try. For much of my life, I was caught up in the idea that I needed to meet other people's expectations and make everyone happy. I thought that if I could just do enough for others, I'd be appreciated and valued. But the truth is, no matter what you do, There will always be someone who isn't satisfied or doesn't understand you. Trying to please everyone only left me feeling exhausted and unfulfilled. The more I tried, the more I lost sight of who I was and what made me happy. I realized that I couldn't be responsible for everyone else's happiness. It wasn't fair to me, and it wasn't healthy. People are in charge of their own happiness, just as I am in charge of mine. It's a painful realization, but a freeing one as well. Letting go of this need to please everyone has been a huge step for me. I've learned that it's okay to disappoint people sometimes, as long as I'm staying true to myself. I no longer feel guilty for not always meeting others' expectations or for not always being available when they want me to be. My life is mine to live, and I no longer feel the pressure to shape it around other people's needs. I've also realized that if people truly care about me, they will understand when I need to put myself first. It's not selfish. It's necessary for my well-being. I can't keep giving pieces of myself to everyone else if I'm not taking care of myself first. I'm learning to say no, to prioritize my own happiness, and to accept that not everyone will be happy with that. And that's okay. As I've grown older, I've come to understand the importance of stepping away from drama, whether it's in the workplace, with friends, or even within my own family. For much of my life, I dealt with stressful situations and drama that often left me feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. There was always some kind of conflict, some argument, or some issue that took up so much of my energy. But in retirement, I've realized that I no longer need to tolerate that kind of negativity in my life. It's not easy to walk away from people or situations that bring stress, especially when they involve family or close friends. But I've learned that protecting my peace is more important than engaging in conflict. If there's drama, I try to step back and let things settle on their own. It doesn't mean I don't care. It just means I'm prioritizing my own well-being. I've learned that sometimes the best way to handle a difficult situation is to simply walk away from it, to remove myself from the negativity. There's also a certain freedom in no longer being involved in every family or social drama. It took a while for me to let go of the idea that I had to fix everything or make everyone happy, but once I did, I felt lighter. I realized that I couldn't change others, and sometimes the best thing I could do was take a step back and let people deal with their own issues. It's not my responsibility to carry the weight of everyone else's problems. The most important lesson I've learned is that drama only adds stress to your life. If you can remove yourself from it, you'll find more space to enjoy peace and happiness. Retirement has taught me that I don't have to tolerate negativity anymore, and that sometimes stepping away from drama is the healthiest choice I can make for myself. One of the most difficult lessons I've learned in my retirement is that I can't try to please everyone. For years, I felt like it was my responsibility to make everyone happy, whether it was family, friends, or coworkers. I believed that if I just did enough for others, I would be appreciated and loved. But as I've gotten older, I've come to realize that it's simply impossible to make everyone happy all the time. Trying to meet everyone's expectations was exhausting. I constantly felt like I was stretching myself too thin, trying to keep everyone satisfied while neglecting my own needs. I used to feel guilty for not always being available or for not meeting other people's demands. But I've learned that it's okay to say no and prioritize my own happiness. I am not responsible for other people's emotions or their happiness. Letting go of the need to please everyone has been a huge relief. It has allowed me to focus more on my own life and well-being. I now know that I can't control how others feel about me, and I no longer try to live my life based on their expectations. It's freeing to accept that my happiness is just as important as anyone else's. As much as I love the people in my life, I've realized that it's okay to disappoint them sometimes. They have to take responsibility for their own happiness, just as I do. This understanding has made my relationships healthier and more balanced. I no longer feel the weight of trying to make everyone happy, and I can focus on what truly matters to me.